Okay, this is part 2 of the Chinese 27.5 trail bike build, and in this video we're going to be working out shock geometry and shock length and stroke length. So in the background we're going to be talking about how much effective stroke length we can actually put into the bike and what the website actually calls for. So this bike calls for a 200 by 50 millimeter or 200 by 51 millimeter shock. So we're going to be working out how we can effectively put more stroke length into the frame. So working out how to effectively put more stroke length into the frame without it binding. So the only binds that it actually has, so we'll compress it fully with the tire in, so that's at full compression. So what we're going to do is we're going to measure that full out and full in and subtract them, and then that's your max stroke length. So we actually have this little rear or a front derailleur cable mounting bracket right there, and so we're going to use that, and this is the max size tire that I'm ever going to use on this bike. So we can effectively put in this and subtract a couple millimeters, and then we will get our max stroke length. So here it goes. So from eyelet to eyelet, it'll fit max about an 8-inch long shock, or 203 millimeters. So subtracting a couple millimeters will equal 200 millimeters, which the website actually did call for a 200 millimeter eye-to-eye length on the shock, which is correct. So we're going to need a 200 millimeter long shock. Now the stroke length calls for 50 millimeters of travel, and if you can't tell, the bike actually has way more. Okay, so it binds right, it doesn't bind down here, it hits the rear seat post stay before it actually bottoms out on the actual linkage. So no binding happens between here and here, so it's free to move from here to here, but then the tire hits. So we're going to use the tire as it's basically max travel. So if we take the measurement between the eyelets now, so we take our tape measure and we measure, it's about 5 inches. So we take 5 inches and we convert it to millimeters. 5 inches converted to millimeters is 127 millimeters. And then we subtract 127 millimeters by 200 millimeters and we get 73 millimeters. So the max amount of stroke we can have on this shock, or with this frame, with this tire size, is 73 millimeters. Now you don't want to go with the max, because the max can bind up, and if you hit it a little bit too hard, it might hit the frame. Your tire is going to hit the frame, so you definitely want to take out some stroke length millimeters. So what I'm going to go with is I'm going to go with a 200 millimeter eye to eye, so that's 200 millimeters from here to here. And then for stroke length, which is the amount of travel in the shock, I'm going to go for about a 67 millimeter. So Fox and RockShox all make standardized stroke lengths. So with the Fox Float X, you can get a 200 millimeter long by 67 millimeter long shock, and from what I've heard, it's a really good shock. I mean, Richie Rude runs it, a couple other big name people run it, so that's what we're going to be going with. So when going with the 67 millimeter travel frame or stroke, essentially it should bottom out around somewhere around there. So not quite touching the frame but very close, and this will maximize the amount of travel pulled out of the frame and should give us a better ride quality. So what we can take from this assessment is basically that the frame, right here, the frame can take a larger straw. So what we can assess from this measurement. So what we can take from this is that the frame can actually take more stroke length than recommended. So what we can go ahead and do is we can put an extra 15 millimeters of travel in the frame. So that's how we can make the bike more efficient in travel and make the shock more efficient and make the linkage more efficient. So with that, it'll be raising the frame a bit because we're going from a 184 millimeter shock to a 200 millimeter long shock. So it'll be raising it out, making it more linear and more balanced, because right now we have too much slack in the frame. So we're going to keep the 140 millimeter fork, and we're going to go with a longer eye-to-eye shock with more travel. So what I'm going to do is if you're going with one of these frames, I'm going to put some links or some measurements right here that you can go with. At the top, I'm gonna have the actual recommended from the website shock length, and then the effective shock length that you can put. And these are all standardized, so you can go ahead and go on whatever website you choose, or go to your local shop and get the shock size that you need. But when getting one of these frames, you can pretty much use the same method on any frame. But if you're going with the Chinese carbon frame, I would definitely go measure the eye-to-eye, and then the closed or binded amount of travel in the frame, and subtract them both and get the effective travel that you can get out of your frame. Okay, so that's going to be it for this video. I know it was short, but I hope you can take the information learned in this video and apply it to any frame that you have. Knowing eye-to-eye and stroke length and understanding linkages can help you in the future in deciding what shock you go with when building a frame. So, if you have any questions, go ahead, leave them down below. I reply to all comments. If you want to shoot me an email, you can shoot me an email or a message over YouTube, doesn't matter. I get them all. Check out the links in the description down below, and make sure you like this video and subscribe for more. Later.